Have you ever had one of those seasons where everything just clicked? Same seeds you always buy, same soil, same watering routine, but for some reason the tomatoes came in heavier, the lettuce germinated faster, and the root crops were the best you've pulled in years. And then the next season, doing everything the same way, the results were just average again. I've had that happen more times than I can count over 30 years of gardening, and I could never explain it. I chalked it up to weather, to luck, to who knows what, but then I learned that Amish families don't leave that kind of thing to chance. They follow a lunar planting calendar that tells them which days to sow, which days to transplant, and which days to leave the garden alone. And they've been doing it for generations, not because it's trendy, not because they read it in a magazine, because their grandparents did it and their great-grandparents before them, and the results kept proving it worth doing. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly how the Amish moon planting calendar works and how to use it in your own garden. And stick around to the end because I'll share a specific lunar harvest trick they use that can help your stored crops last weeks longer than they normally would. Now, I want to be straight with you right from the start. When I first heard about planting by the moon, I thought it sounded like something out of a folklore book, not something a serious gardener would bother with. I almost dismissed it entirely. But a neighbor of mine, a man who'd lived near Amish communities his whole life, told me to just try it for one season and compare. So I did. I picked 2 identical raised beds, same soil, same seeds, same water. One bed I planted on whatever weekend was convenient. The other I planted according to the lunar calendar. By midsummer, the difference was subtle but real. The moon-planted bed had more consistent germination, and the plants just looked a little more vigorous. Wasn't magic, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to make me curious, and I've been following the calendar ever since. Here's the foundation of how the Amish think about this. The moon goes through a complete cycle roughly every 29 and a half days. During that cycle, it moves through 4 main phases: new moon, first quarter, full moon, and third quarter. Each phase lasts about 7 days. The Amish divide their garden tasks across those 4 phases based on a simple principle. When the moon is waxing, meaning growing from new to full, its gravitational pull draws moisture upward through the soil toward the surface. This encourages upward growth, germination, and leaf development. When the moon is waning, meaning shrinking from full back to new, moisture is pulled deeper into the soil, favoring root development and below ground growth. Now, is this proven beyond all doubt in a laboratory? Not entirely. The science is genuinely mixed. Some studies, including research published in the Journal of Agricultural Science, have shown measurable differences in germination rates and moisture uptake during different lunar phases. Other studies found no significant effect. But here's what I keep coming back to. The Amish aren't the only ones who plant this way. Indigenous American tribes, or traditional European farmers, biodynamic growers, following Rudolf Steiner's methods, and the Old Farmer's Almanac, which has published lunar planting guides continuously since 1792, all point to the same basic framework. When that many unconnected traditions converge on the same idea across centuries, I think it's worth paying attention even if the lab work hasn't fully caught up yet. And the beautiful thing is, this costs you nothing to try. It takes about 5 minutes to check a lunar calendar before you plant. You're not changing what you grow or how you grow it. You're just adjusting when. Let's walk through each phase and exactly what to do during it. The first phase runs from the new moon to the first quarter. During this window, the moon is just beginning to wax. There's increasing moonlight each night and, according to the tradition, rising moisture in the soil. This is your best window for sowing crops that produce their edible parts above ground and are harvested primarily for their leaves. Think lettuce, spinach, cabbage, kale, celery, broccoli, and cauliflower. Herbs like basil, parsley, and cilantro also fall into this category. The thinking is that the combination of increasing light and upward moving moisture gives leafy crops the best possible start. Seeds are more likely to absorb water and swell for germination when soil moisture is being drawn toward the surface. For practical application, this means when you're planting your spring lettuce planting, check a lunar calendar and aim to get those seeds in the ground during the first few days after the new moon. You're still planting based on your frost dates and soil. temperature. That doesn't change. The lunar calendar is just helping you choose which specific days within your planting window to actually put seeds in the ground. So your lettuce 1/4 inch deep, your spinach about 1/2 inch deep, and your brassica starts at the same depth they sat in their pots. Water gently at the soil line. The Amish say these first phase plantings tend to germinate more evenly and establish faster than the same seeds sown during a waning moon. In my own experience, the difference has been most noticeable with lettuce and spinach. Germination has been visibly more uniform when I've timed it to this phase. The second phase runs from the first quarter to the full moon. The moon is now more than half illuminated and still growing toward full. Moonlight is near its peak, and according to the tradition, soil moisture is at its highest upward pull. This is your window for above ground crops that produce fruit, seeds, or pods rather than just leaves. Tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumbers, beans, peas, melons, and corn all go in during this phase. The reasoning is that these crops need strong upward energy, not just for leaf growth, but for flowering and fruit set. The increasing gravitational pull and peak moonlight during this phase are believed to support that heavier above ground development. When you're setting out your tomato transplants in late spring, check the calendar and aim for the days between first quarter and full moon. Plant your tomatoes deep, bearing 2/3 of the stem, which is good practice regardless of the moon. Set peppers at the same depth they were in their pots. Direct sow beans about 1 to 1.5 inches deep, and squash about 1 inch deep. The Amish are particularly attentive to this phase for beans and corn. These are two of their staple crops, and many families will wait an extra day or two to land within this lunar window rather than planting on a convenient Saturday that falls in the wrong phase. Started paying attention to this with my tomato transplants specifically, and I've noticed that the ones I set out during this phase seem to establish faster with less transplant shock. I can't prove it's the moon. It could be coincidence. But after 4 seasons of consistent results, I keep doing it. The third phase runs from the full moon to the third quarter. Now the moon is waning. Light is decreasing each night, and according to the tradition, moisture is being drawn downward into the soil deeper toward the root zone. This is your window for everything that grows underground. Carrots, beets, turnips, radishes, parsnips, potatoes, onions, and garlic all get planted during this phase. The logic is straightforward. When the energy and moisture in the soil are moving downward, root crops benefit because that's exactly the direction they need to grow. This is also considered the best phase for transplanting established seedlings into the garden because the downward moisture pull encourages roots to establish quickly in their new location. For carrots, sow 1/4 inch deep. For beets, 1/2 inch deep. Potatoes go in about 4 inches deep. Garlic cloves go in about 2 inches deep with the point end up, typically in the fall. The Amish are especially particular about potato planting and this lunar phase. Potatoes are one of their most important storage crops, and many families treat the waning moon window after full moon as the only acceptable time to get them in the ground. Now, what I'm showing you today is just one piece of a much bigger picture. The Amish don't do anything in isolation. Every technique connects to a whole system, and that system is what makes the difference between a garden that struggles and a garden that practically takes care of itself. I spent years learning how it all fits together, and I've put everything into a step-by-step guide called the 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. It's got the complete 5 defense layers, the companion planting charts, the 4-bed crop rotation, all of it laid out day by day, so you're never guessing what to do next. If you want to go deeper than what we can cover in one video, there are 2 easy ways to get it. You can click the link right down there in the description below this video, or if you're watching this on your TV or your computer, just grab your phone, open up the camera, and point it at the QR code on screen right now. It'll take you straight to the guide. No searching, no typing anything in. All right, let's keep going. The 4th phase runs from the 3rd quarter back to the new moon. The moon is at its dimmest, waning down to nothing before the cycle starts again. In the Amish tradition, this is the rest phase. You don't plant anything, you don't transplant anything. This is your window for all the maintenance work that keeps a garden healthy, but doesn't involve putting living things into the ground. Weeding, pruning, turning compost, amending. soil, building beds, mowing paths, and cleaning up spent crops. This is also the phase the Amish consider best for harvesting crops that you intend to store long term. And I'll come back to that in the bonus tip because it's a genuinely useful detail. The reasoning behind the rest phase is that with minimal moonlight and moisture pulling deep away from the surface, conditions are least favorable for new growth. Seeds are less likely to germinate strongly, transplants are less likely to establish well, and the overall energy in the garden is at its lowest point in the cycle. Rather than fighting that, the Amish work with it. They use these 7 days to do all the tasks that don't require growth, and then they're ready to plant again as soon as the new moon returns and the cycle begins fresh. I found this rest phase genuinely useful just as a planting rhythm. It gives me a built-in week every month where I'm not planting anything, which means I'm actually catching up on weeding and soil prep instead of constantly falling behind. Even if you're skeptical about the lunar effects on plants, using the dark moon week as a dedicated maintenance window is a practical habit worth adopting. Now, applying all of this to your own garden is simpler than it probably sounds right now. You don't need to overhaul your entire system. You just need one additional reference. The Old Farmer's Almanac publishes a lunar planting calendar every year, and you can access it free on their website. It shows you exactly which phase the moon is in on any given day and what tasks are recommended. There are also free apps that track lunar phases in real time. All you do is check the phase before you plant. If you were planning to sow lettuce this weekend and the calendar shows you're in a waning third quarter moon, just wait 3 or 4 days until the new moon arrives and then sow. Your frost dates still come first. Your soil temperature still matters. The moon calendar is the final layer. You add on top of what you already know, not a replacement for any of it. Think of it this way. You already checked the weather before you plant. This is just one more quick check that takes less than a minute and might give your seeds a better start. Let me walk through some patterns I see in conventional gardening compared to how the Amish handle planting timing. I did all of these for decades, so there's no judgment here. The first pattern is weekend planting. Most of us plant on Saturday because that's when we have time, regardless of what the moon is doing or what conditions favor. The Amish check the lunar phase and adjust by a few days in either direction to land in the right window. That small shift costs nothing, but could make a difference in how your seeds establish. The second pattern is planting everything on the same day. We buy a flat of transplants and put them all in at once. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs, lettuce, all in one afternoon. The Amish would separate those by phase. Leafy herbs and lettuce go in during the new moon to first quarter window. Tomatoes and peppers go in during first quarter to full moon. Root crops wait for the waning moon. It takes a little more planning, but each crop gets its optimal timing. The third pattern is ignoring rest periods. Conventional gardening doesn't have a built-in pause. We plant, weed, water, and harvest in whatever order feels urgent. The Amish dark moon week creates a natural rhythm of action and rest that keeps the garden and the gardener from burning out. I found that rhythm surprisingly helpful for staying organized. The fourth pattern is harvesting whenever the crop looks ready without considering storage life. We pick tomatoes when they're ripe and beans when they're full, and that's fine for fresh eating. But the Amish pay close attention to the moon phase when harvesting crops destined for the root cellar or the canning shelf, and that brings me to the bonus tip. Here's something the Amish do that I think is one of the most underappreciated details in all of traditional farming. When they harvest root crops, potatoes, winter squash, onions, or anything else they plan to store for months, they time that harvest to fall during the third quarter to new moon phase, the dark waning moon. The thinking is that during this phase, moisture has been pulled deep into the roots and the plant's above ground energy is at its lowest. Crops harvested during this window tend to have lower surface moisture, which means less chance of rot in storage. Now, is there a peer-reviewed paper that proves this beyond all doubt? Not yet. But I've been testing it for 3 seasons, and here's what I've noticed. Potatoes I harvested during the waning moon and cured normally in a cool, dark space lasted noticeably longer before showing soft spots or sprouting compared to potatoes I'd harvested earlier in the cycle in previous years. The onions held firmer longer. The winter squash kept better into late February. Could there be other variables involved? Absolutely. But the Amish have been timing their storage harvest this way for generations, and the Old Farmer's Almanac recommends the same thing. It costs you nothing to try. When your potatoes are ready to dig and your onion tops have fallen over, just glance at the moon phase. If you can wait a few days to land in that waning window, it might buy you extra weeks of storage life. That's a meaningful difference when you're trying to eat from your own garden as deep into winter as possible. That's the Amish moon planting calendar. 4 phases, 4 jobs. New moon to first quarter, plant your leafy crops. First quarter to full moon, plant your fruiting crops. Full moon to third quarter, plant your root crops and transplant. Third quarter to new moon, rest, maintain, and harvest for storage. It's not complicated. It doesn't cost a dime, and it layers right on top of everything you're already doing without asking you to change a single technique. Now, what I've shared with you today is a real piece of the puzzle, but it's still just one piece. If you're tired of fighting the same battles every season, if you want a garden that actually works with you instead of against you, then I'd really encourage you to check out the guide I put together. It's called the 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol, and it's everything I've learned from my Amish neighbors over the last 3 decades, organized into a simple day-by-day plan you can start this season. It covers the full 5 defense layers to build a garden that defends itself from the soil up. It's got the complete 4-bed crop rotation system that stops disease and pests before they ever get a foothold, and it includes a companion planting field guide so you know exactly what to grow next to what and why. Now, there are 2 easy ways to grab it. The first way is to click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down a little and you'll see it. The second way, if you're watching on a television or a computer screen, is to take out your phone, open up your camera like you're going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code you see on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that, and it'll bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think it's the best investment you can make in your garden this year.